Spring training is here. Cactus League games are starting. Dodger baseball will be on our TVs. It's an exciting time. What are we looking for out of that first game? We got a little bit of an update on Shohei Ohtani and his rehab throughout the spring. We'll take a look at Will Smith and a contract extension and if that makes sense. And we'll get into a little bit more. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And you can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and getting notified when our episodes are ready for you. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host Jeff Snyder. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have been watching the Dodgers all of our lives. We've been covering the Dodgers a big portion of our lives, and we've been doing this podcast for just about as long as that. And we're here to bring you what we believe is smart and knowledgeable takes about the Dodgers, making you a better Dodger fan, making us a better Dodger fan, and overall just enjoying being a Dodger fan, and especially this offseason, this spring, this coming season, where our excitement continues to build, right, Jeff?
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani is smiling and laughing more than he ever has, and I think so are we.
Yeah, definitely. And today is the first Cactus League game, Dodgers and Padres. They're the only game, I believe, that's going on. All the other games start on Friday. And, yeah, there's, a lot to look forward to throughout the spring. We know we won't see Shohei Ohtani out there. We know we will see Gavin Stone and Michael Grove, at least two of the pitchers that are out there. But, yeah, Jeff, what are we looking for out of this first spring game?
Well, like I said yesterday, Gavin Stone is a guy I'm expecting to have a huge spring and to really make a push to, if not earn his way into the rotation to start the season, at least be clearly accepted as the first man up when they need somebody. That's kind of what I expect from him. And so, obviously, very first game of spring, we don't know how ready anybody's going to be. And you and I are probably going to preach several times this spring to not get too high or too low over spring training results. But, I think there's things we'll be able to see as far as stuff goes from Gavin Stone. So that's one of the big things that I am looking forward to watching. I'm glad he's starting because spring training games, sometimes, you don't always get to the end of the game when you're watching because eventually there's guys who even the hardcorest of the hardcore prospect hounds have barely heard of in the games. But, I'll definitely be watching the first several. Actually, I have to get in the car for a road trip. So that's why I won't see the end of the game, but I will get to see Gavin Stone. So I think that's my big thing.
Yeah, there's very few actual position battles. Gavin Stone is involved in one of those, which is the 5th starter spot at the moment. So we'll see with him. Michael Grove is not in that mix necessarily, but in the mix to be on the opening day roster at the very least. And then, we'll see who else we see. Gavin Lux, I believe, is expected to play. It'll be back in Peoria where he got hurt last year. So it'll be, hopefully he can get a base hit his first time through. When I asked him at Chris Taylor's Polar Plunge event, kind of what was going to be that first thing that he's looking forward to, getting back on the field and kind of feeling like, okay, I'm good now. And he said rounding the bases and turning a double into a triple or, scoring from second or something like that. So, hopefully he can get that out of the way and he can feel comfortable and have no PTSD or anything like that. So, yeah, there's things to look forward to. Definitely the Dodgers are going to have games, moving forward now. We are just under a month away from an actual game that matters. So there's a lot jam-packed here in this next month, but, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Shohei Ohtani won't be playing in this game. There was a little bit of Shohei news. There wasn't much going on at Camelback Ranch on Wednesday. It was photo day, and so There was plenty of pictures coming out, but actual on-field stuff, there wasn't a ton. But Shohei did. Well, Dave Roberts said that the plan is to get Shohei about 50 plate appearances this spring so that he'll be ready to play the 2 games in Korea. And Ohtani talked to the media, and he said that they asked if he felt like he was ahead of schedule, and he said he's not ahead of schedule, but he's right on schedule, which is a really good thing. And he doesn't think it'll be any problem for him to get the plate appearances necessary to be ready to be in the lineup for those 2 games in Korea.
Yeah, all signs pointing toward Shohei Ohtani being the DH in the Dodgers, first game of the actual season, which is a week before the actual rest of the season starts for everybody else. So looking forward to that. We did get, shout out to the Dodgers social media team for really kind of being different so far this offseason. We've seen them do a lot of great things in the past, and, they've covered spring and done different things, but they've kind of given the power to the players this offseason. But from what we've seen, Miguel Rojas was holding on to the main phone when they had the Dodgers team organization wing eating contest. Got a few cool clips out of that. Teoscar Hernandez had it yesterday when they were doing the team photo day. They followed Freddie Freeman and some of the other guys that were playing golf the other day, and we learned that Freddie Freeman isn't good at everything because he wasn't very good at golf, and Charlie has a little bit better swing than his. But yeah, it's just been, I don't want to say this Dodger team is closer than years past, because we haven't had necessarily this type of look into the team before, so we can't say for sure. But it's definitely been fun to kind of see, and it gets you excited. Like, Shohei Ohtani was speaking Spanish this morning, or Wednesday morning, and that's something I never thought we would see, or him like just kind of being involved in all the activities. The guys definitely love putting the camera on him when they're in charge of the camera. So it's been it's been really fun so far.
Yeah, and Ohtani seemed to love it. Like, he was like, the way he kind of put his head on Teoscar's shoulder, like it was like, it seems like he's just buddy, but yeah, Sujo and her team have definitely stepped up to the challenge of knowing there's going to be more eyes on the team this spring and giving us more looks into the team. So shout out to them. They're doing a great job. I wasn't surprised that Freddie Freeman wasn't good at golfing. He's never struck me as the Mookie good at everything type. Freddie strikes me as the awesome at baseball because he lives and breathes baseball type. And so, I suspect, obviously he's a big, strong guy, and so he could probably hold his own battling for a rebound on the basketball court, but I bet he doesn't make many 3-pointers, Yeah,
I just felt like his baseball swing is so awkward that he wouldn't affect his like golf swing at all, because they probably would be completely different. But yeah, he definitely was having some struggles out there, at least, according to him. But
does he golf left-handed?
Yeah.
Okay. I wondered, it's always surprising, who does what with what hand. Like Kike Hernandez bats and throws right, but he writes left-handed. So it's I just wondered. I didn't actually see the video. So
yeah, but there's I'm sure they got more coming, and we'll also have some highlights to put on top of that. So looking forward to that. We've had.
I was just gonna say I'm excited. There's a baseball game to watch today.
Yeah, exactly. One of the guys that not sure if he will be playing in that game, but somebody that we've heard a lot of questions from you listeners about so far this offseason is Will Smith. He will be a free agent at the end of the 2025 season, but is it time for the Dodgers to extend him now? We're going to get into that, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you've ever decided to go to an event last minute, but it hasn't always been the easiest thing to do, but now with Game Time app, it's very easy to do, because you shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And they always have killer last minute deals, all in prices. You can check the views from the seats, and with their best price guarantee, you don't have to do anything in the sense of worrying. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase, because they've got the Game Time guarantee, which means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off that first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. If you're on YouTube, finish our episode and you need something else to watch, the Locked On Podcast Network has you covered with Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels that are bringing you the news and stories from around the sports world and the LA sports world. Obviously, you'll see us on Locked On Sports Los Angeles most of the time, and you'll definitely catch us on Locked On Sports Today some of the time. So make sure to check those out and subscribe. And now, Jeff, let's talk about Will Smith. We got a question from a listener last week when we put a call for questions. We got a Locked On Dodgers insider question about this, and we've talked about it before, but it's been a few months and things have changed a little bit at the very least. And our buddy Doug DMAC from Dodgers Nation was at spring training, kind of asked Will Smith about an extension. He, in true Will Smith form, just kind of brushed it off and, said he doesn't worry about the stuff. He kind of likes to live in the present. But if there was a figure we could put out there that kind of comparable to what other catchers have gotten, what Will Smith could command, we could kind of create that and see, should the Dodgers do that right now?
Yeah, it is hard to kind of find a comparable because catchers like Will Smith, who are really good hitters, don't come along super often. And we do have JT Realmuto's contract that he signed, what's it been, 4 years ago now, something like that. And that's kind of the closest comp. But, when you look at like Yadier Molina was a totally different kind of catcher, elite defensively and, passable offensively. Whereas Smith is much more offensive and solid defensively. So, I guess Realmuto is our only real comp. And what was his deal?
This was like 585, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so, but that, like I said, that was also several years ago. And so how much have prices gone up since then? It's hard to calculate because different positions go up at different rates and everything. 115 looks like. 5 years, 115. Yeah. So what's that? 23-ish million per year. So yeah, Vince, if Will Smith was willing to do 5 and 115 like Realmuto did, is that a deal that you'd be interested in the Dodgers making?
I would be interested for sure. Just with the, once you're an established major league catcher, especially offensively, there's not too much volatility. Last year Will Smith was a tale of two seasons. First half of the season when he was healthy, second half when he was a little bit compromised, and still ended up being really, really good, just not as good as he had been in the first half. But as we've seen, kind of go down to the minors and look at the volatility there. And, Diego Cartaya was a top prospect and all top 100 list last year. I don't think he ended up making, or maybe only made a 1 or 2 top 100 lists, kind of hanging on this year. They've had Dalton Rushing, who's, been on those lists. They've had Tyron Lironzo, who's kind of climbed up and made it toward the bottom of there. They got Jesus Galiz, who's, kind of in that mix now. So there's, we've always talked about the Dodgers catching depth, but it's not necessarily depth until those guys are proven in the majors. And right now, none of those guys are proven in the majors. And you have Will Smith, who is proven in the majors, has proven to be able to handle it defensively, has proven to handle it offensively. And I think if you can get him for around that 5-115, that means the catcher market didn't really go up too much. And I think it's definitely worth it for the Dodgers specifically, because even if, 1 or 2 of those catcher prospects do work out, we may not know that they work out with the Dodgers because they might get traded before that if Will Smith is locked down for a few years. And if we do find it out, it wouldn't be anything crippling to where the Dodgers would be, hampered by that deal.
Yeah, Smith and Realmuto are around the same age as each other at contract time. Realmuto's 4 years older than Smith, and his contract was 4 years ago. And if you look at the arbitration numbers, Smith at age 28 made $5.25 million in arbitration. Realmuto at age 28 made $5.9 million, so a little bit more. And then at age 29, this coming season, Smith is going to make $8.5 million. Realmuto made $10 million. And then Real Muto hit free agency then. And so obviously part of the reason that Real Muto's numbers were a little higher is because he was deeper into the arbitration process. And so they care about that when they're figuring out numbers, if you're third year arbitration versus second year. So I think Smith is in line to make more than Real Muto in his final year of arbitration, but also be a year older than him in that final year of arbitration. So they are pretty comparable. But yeah, like you said, I really think the question is, what do the Dodgers think they're going to get? Because now that you do have Shohei Ohtani locked in at DH, there's not, I mean, if Dalton Rushing or Tyron Lorenzo or even Diego Cartaya made it to the big leagues, said, I'm ready for the big leagues, I'm ready to be the starting catcher, well, then Will Smith would have to play a different position, in order to stay in the lineup. And I have to think that catching depth is at least part of the reason that they haven't had these discussions yet, wanting to see what's going to pan out with some of those prospects. They have tried Will Smith very briefly. I know he played third base one game that I was at and got one ground ball hit to him and threw the ball away to first base. I assume he could turn into a passable third baseman, but that's no sure bet. And his offense is elite for a catcher, and it would be solid for a third baseman. Although you also figure his offense might tick up a little bit if he didn't have the rigors, the physical and mental demands of playing catcher every day. So a lot of stuff to think about there, but I do think the depth at catching is a big factor here, because you have to factor in that Will Smith might not be a catcher for that whole 5 years.
Yeah, and I think for me too, last season, Will Smith was locked in kind of at that number 4 hitter, and it was great in the first half of the season, and then second half of the season when he kind of struggled a little bit, it was like, all right, whatever. And Will Smith has had, been around the middle of the order most of his career once he's kind of established himself. But I do think that, that they're probably going to wait this year just for the simple fact of seeing how he operates. He's not – last year he was kind of counted on to be a guy in the middle of the order. This year he might be in the middle of the order, but he's not necessarily counted on. When they got Mookie and Freddie and Ohtani and, Muncy and, even Teoscar, who's had big power numbers and, may not be in the middle of the order, maybe closer to the bottom. But regardless, there's less focus on Will Smith having to be a run producer, and he can kind of just be a guy that, comes through when you need him, hits the ball hard, which is something we've known from him before. Sometimes, it doesn't work out for him, but I think that's kind of where it's at. So, I think the other part that there hasn't been extension talks is that the Dodgers don't necessarily need to have extension talks right now. They have, he has one more full year after this year before they even have to worry about it. And I don't think, catchers in general aren't going to reset markets or break. I don't even think there's another catcher out there that can really reset the market before him anyways, necessarily. So, it's not one of those where like Zach Greinke they did an extension with him back in the day, like the year before he hit free agency. Yeah, he probably would have signed, and he might have got him a lot cheaper than he ended up being. There's different cases of that where you sign guys early and, they end up being bargains. But for the catcher's position specifically, I don't think they have to be in a rush.
Yeah, and the Dodgers have money. And so, part of the reason to extend a guy early is to get a hometown discount. And well, that would be nice. The Dodgers might just be weighing and say, you know what, we're okay if 2 years from now when he hits free agency and we do need him, we're okay paying more, that it's worth that money to us to have the flexibility now to not lock ourselves in on him. And we as fans obviously would love to have all our players stay forever, but when you look at, very few guys have played their whole career in Dodger blue. Clayton Kershaw is a rare exception. And, I can't think of anybody else in your lifetime who played, 10 years and played his whole career with the Dodgers. It just doesn't happen.
He wasn't drafted by the Dodgers, but Ethier.
Oh, Ethier, that's true. Yeah. But even that was kind of luck of the draw. Dodgers were planning on trading him until he broke his leg, and so he got a little bit lucky on that one. But yeah, Matt Kemp got traded. Zach Greinke came and then left in free agency the same way he had come. All these guys, they just come and go.
Russell Martin got non-tendered.
Russell Martin got non-tendered the same week that they signed Juan Uribe. It was the worst week ever for me. But yeah, it's we want our guys to stick around, but the Dodgers, their goal, the front office goal, is to build a winner. And right now, it seems like Will Smith, having him locked up for the next 5 years, would be a great idea. But even just the physical demands of playing catcher, and Smith missed some time, I think just last year, right, with concussion.
Yeah,
stuff.
concussion. Yep.
And so, I mean, there's a very real chance that Will Smith, the injuries could derail his career. And if that happens in the next 2 years, the Dodgers will be glad they weren't locked in for extra years at a higher rate. They might still want to keep him around, but they won't want to pay the 2024 rate for him if he's not the 2024 version of the player. So I just remember, I was looking it up. The game that he played third base was, do you remember which game that was?
I remember the game he played first base. I don't remember the game played third base.
Obviously it was a blowout. Oh, first base was that Angels game, huh?
No, the Giants game.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Who was playing first base in that Angels game where that ended on the catcher throwing it over
Grandal? Yeah, I don't remember.
Was it Chase Utley at first base? Anyway, this was that game in 2021, also on my birthday, against the Cardinals, when Paul Goldschmidt hit a homer in the top of the first, and then the Dodgers scored 11 runs at the bottom of the first, including a grand slam by Cody Bellinger. Yeah. Were we sitting together at that game?
No, we didn't sit together at that one.
Okay, but we saw each other. So yeah, I just remember it was my birthday and Cody Bellinger hit a grand slam for me. So anyway, that's our Will Smith thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there's not a lot of position player battles, but there could be one, or we're going to create one at the very least. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins, and you can put a bet on anything you want necessarily, and especially in the NBA world, you can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Lakers take on the Warriors tonight. LeBron won't be playing, so you can't put any bets on LeBron. But that would mean AD is probably going to be looking at a lot of chances to score. So if you want to bump up AD points total, hit that over on AD rebounds. You might want to check that out. And if you put at least $5 on in the hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. So right now, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. Get the app, check it out, and go put some bets down. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. You can become a Locked On Dodgers every day or by listening or watching every day. You are some of our favorite fans if you do that. We're available where we get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider, some of our other favorite fans, because they are people that can text directly with us and get our thoughts when things happen. They can ask for our thoughts or reactions when other things happen. All you gotta do is go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider, get direct access to Jeff and I for anything Dodgers, especially right now once the season gets going. It's probably going to be, beneficial for you to go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right, Jeff, our last one. There's not a lot of position player battles for the Dodgers. Or at least by our eyes, it appears that all the position players are locked, and we kind of know what the lineup is going to be against lefties and against righties. But Manuel Margot's been someone that we hadn't really seen too much of. Obviously, we see him now in camp. We haven't really talked too much of, other than when we were deciding if we wanted to keep him or drop him when we were thinking about Kike Hernandez. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. But with Miguel Vargas kind of learning the outfield, they still are high on him. Andy Pajes, who is recovering from injury and looks like he should be good to go this season. Is there any way for them to push Margot for that last spot and the Dodgers end up, moving on from Margot before the season even starts?
I think there's a possibility. The Dodgers got Margot as part of the cost to get Tyler Glasnow. It was taken on Margot's contract, basically. And that's the kind of move that the Dodgers can do. basically buying down, okay, fewer prospects we have to give up for somebody of Tyler Glasnow's quality. And taking that one step further, if they were to flip Margot and eat the salary, they could actually get some value for him. Probably not quite matching the Pepion DeLuca they gave up to get him and Glasnow, but not a lot less than that if they're eating the contract. And so, basically it could be a chance to buy some prospects. And the one thing that would make that a possibility for them to actually flip Margot would be for Vargas or Paez to hit well enough and maybe even more importantly, field well enough in spring training that they deserve to be on the roster. And, because Margot, we know what Margot is. He's never going to be a superstar. We kind of know exactly what to expect from him. And potential wise, like if Vargas or Paez meet their potential, they both have potential to be a better player than Margot is. And so the question would be, can they show signs of hitting that potential this spring? Because there's going to be injuries on other teams this spring. Somebody's going to have an outfielder go down with a torn ACL or, even just a strained hamstring that puts them in a bind to start the season. There could be some demand for a guy like Manuel Margot, a veteran, can play all over the outfield. A guy like that could have some value as the spring goes on. And that's kind of the scenario I could see him being traded, is if Vargas or Paez kind of pushes the envelope there and forces the issue.
Yeah, realistically, that's kind of what makes sense. Especially, there's not Tommy Pham's available. There's still free agents available, which kind of, would lower Margot's market a little bit in the trade because, well, actually, I don't know these days if teams value money more than they value prospects. Because the Dodgers pay down all of Margot's salary in order to get a better prospect, then maybe a team would want that, and to get Margot at basically league minimum or free or whatever they want to pay for him. But yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think with Vargas specifically, I think they would love if he came into spring and played well in the outfield and hit and looked like he learned from last year and everything else, because he does bring obviously a slightly more versatility. He can play second or can play infield in general, can play second, can play third if they really needed him. And we know how the Dodgers love versatility. I know Margot's been kind of penciled in as one of the guys that can play center field. Vargas, I don't think will really get put out there unless he really thrives in left field, and they think that maybe he could handle center field. But I don't think that really hampers the Dodgers too much in theory, or not in theory, realistically, if they need an outfield.
With Outman, Hayward, and Taylor, you don't need that fourth guy who can play center.
Exactly. And, if they really needed it, Mookie Betts could play center as well if it came down to it. So that they don't necessarily have a need in center that Margot, provides. So there's not really much Margot provides other than he's a little bit of an established major league talent that the Dodgers are paying right now. I think that's really the main reason for him. I know the Dodgers kind of, gave some lip value or some lip service to when they made the Glasnow trade and, threw Margot a little bit of praise, but I think that was just general praise from, that we made a trade and we want to, highlight everybody that we got in that trade or give a reason as to why we acquired this guy. So, yeah, I don't think that there's any ties to Margot. I don't know if there's enough this spring. Like, it'd have to be Margot really, really bad, Vargas really, really good in the spring for them to even consider it. But I also do believe that Margot is not guaranteed to last the entire season with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I actually think he'd be less likely to get traded if he is really bad, because then he doesn't have the trade value. I think really it all comes down to Vargas or Paez playing well. I think if Margot is Manuel Margot and Vargas is the version of Vargas that was the top prospect in baseball just, a year and a half ago, I think that could push that. But yeah, it's not likely, but we haven't seen we've heard that Miguel Vargas is a left fielder now. But we haven't actually seen any action. That's another thing that I don't know if we'll see that in Thursday's game or not, but sometime soon we'll see Miguel Vargas in a game out there in left field and get a feel for it. We know he's a great athlete.
See him in general. I don't even remember seeing him at all.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see, but just, one of the many things that is exciting about getting actual games now. Cause like, even with all the stuff that's been going on at Camelback Ranch, we're dependent on the media and Sportsnet LA to like give us video and the social media team and all that stuff. But now like we can watch the games. We still will be dependent on them for the backfield stuff, but we can actually see Gavin Stone pitching on Thursday and see how his stuff looks, and hopefully see, I don't know who's going to be in the lineup, but whoever is, we'll get to see them hitting and see how it looks. And, we won't get to see Shohei Ohtani hit yet, but soon we'll get to see Shohei Ohtani hitting in a game. So,
yeah, like I said, it feels like we're at season now, obviously, and this year's going to be a little bit different because at that time when we're kind of like over spring training and okay, let's just get to the regular season, the Dodgers will be playing actual games. They'll be in Korea playing exhibition games, and then they'll be playing actual games that matter. Then they'll come back home. But like usually that last 1 week, 2 week stretch is where you're like, all right, let's just get to the regular games now. But the Dodgers will be at that point. So there's definitely, we feel like, March 20th is going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah, after the lockout, remember, it was kind of nice that spring was a little bit shorter. That's kind of what we're getting this year with the Dodgers again. So a little bit shorter spring training, which, is a little dangerous for them, but, it's good for us as fans.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. We will be back tomorrow, probably just me, but we'll be talking about the Cactus League opener, what we saw, what we didn't see, what looked good, what didn't look good. Not overanalyze, but just analyze appropriately. So we'll be here for that. Make sure to check out Locked On Podcast Network's 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, covering the biggest sports and news and stories from around the sports world and the LA sports world. You can find those on YouTube. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and text directly with us throughout the season. All you got to do is go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, or if you're at home, tell your smart device to podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.